Right, we're testing all the platforms. We have returned Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel on our weekly forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. We are just a couple minutes ahead, but we're just trying to make sure that everything is working. This is Dumisani Washington. I am the founder and the CEO of IBSI. Hello, everyone. So now we are, for the first time, streaming on all of our platform, well, with the exception of IG. So IG Live is my personal one. It's not it's that streaming on that one, on the IBSI one now, but we are on Clubhouse. Though I don't have my co-pilots with me on today. I'll get into that in a minute. Next time probably. And then also we are streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on Facebook. So hello everyone. I don't see your comments. So if you are on there and you are speaking and then we don't see it right away, we don't have our whole staff. So my apologies in advance, not ignoring you, but we'll have our fuller complement next time. We just kind of open up here and get started again. So again, we haven't been on Clubhouse. We actually haven't done our forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America for several months. We have been somewhat not AWOL, but we haven't been, other than doing an IG live every once in a while. We really haven't done our regular show up here on social media, but we have begun again. So if you are on Clubhouse that are there, go ahead and ping your neighbors, ping your friends. I'm trying to see here how I can do this as a moderator. Nope, can't. Somehow can't do my moderator thing like I usually do. For some reason, I'm trying to make our COO a moderator on there, and that's what's really also a little bit embarrassing. I apologize to you that I haven't been in Clubhouse in a minute, so I don't remember how all of that works. Let me see. I am live. Am I live? Checking connection. All right. I guess I am live. Now I'm live on IG. I was saying all that. It wasn't live on IG yet, but so welcome everyone. Great to be with you here. We will each Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel will host its Clubhouse, and not just Clubhouse, obviously, but on different platforms as well. We're on Clubhouse. We're on IG Live. On mine, on Dumisani 6, you'll see that on IG Live. On Instagram Live. We're on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, all on the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. So if you're aware of those platforms, go to them. If not, please check those out and follow us on Instagram. Follow us on, although not Instagram at this very moment, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. We are so glad to be with you. Hello, everyone out there in IG. What's up? What's up? What's up? Hey, how's everybody doing? Apologize, just opened that up a second ago. Hey, Miss Kristen, how you doing, ma'am? It's good to be with you on today. Now, if you follow the graphic or any of those announcements, this time on Twitter, or on social media, like it's hard to just say Clubhouse, but we are on Clubhouse. Shout out to everyone on there in Clubhouse. How y'all doing? Again, if anybody wants to have these conversations, the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel is an organization founded, actually, this is our 10th anniversary this summer, right? I am the founder and the CEO of IBSI. Just returned full time to IBSI, however, in June of 2021. So it's been about 2 years since I've come back and been full time. I was about 7 years as the diversity outreach coordinator for Christians United for Israel. Almost 7 complete years. Had a great time. Returned to IBSI in the wake, actually, of many different things, and during May 2020, which was, unless you were in a cave somewhere, everything from the death of George Floyd to the height of the COVID pandemic, to just all kinds of things happening socially in our nation and around the world. Unfortunately, many of those things, on top of being very trying and difficult as they were, also spurred a great deal of more racist activity, more anti-Semitic activity. And so we returned to our organization, Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, in around, it was May of 2021, always kind of behind the scenes on the board and everything. My son, Joshua Washington, is the executive director. He is not with me on today. He's actually in California on a couple of the projects. I'll be doing a couple of things in California as well. For my West Coast folks, Zion West, I won't be able to stop. I'll be in the Bay Area for 24 hours and come right back. So I won't be able to go to the Valley this time, but hopefully very, very soon we'll be able to do that. So welcome everybody to the forum, Israel IBSI's forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. We in this forum discuss religion, politics, geopolitics, culture, music, all things pertaining to Israel, Africa, and Black America. We have some notes that are here on today. We're usually here for about an hour, a little more than that. Sometimes it gets, I don't know, heated, but we get into different things. I don't anticipate that. Well, I never anticipate it, but you never know what's going to happen. I will be usually joined every Monday by the executive director, Joshua Washington, and also one of our board members, Olga Mashwe Washington. They are not with me on today, though we have started on today. They're one's flying home, one's flying away from home. I'm flying away from home on tomorrow. Shout out to our friends. I got to put that on a note as well. I'll say something about that as I get to it, but I will be in Israel again for the 4th time this year for the Africa Leadership Summit. It's not too late for those of you who want to join. It's you can go to Africa Leadership Summit, I believe, .org. Let me double check here. Again, I don't have my co-pilots right here. As a matter of fact, Elizabeth, I might commandeer you to actually join me. If I could figure out a way, Miss Elizabeth, to actually make you a moderator, I would do that in a heartbeat. For some reason, I'm having some issues here technically. I don't know why I'm not able to do that. So I'll have to figure that out here in a second. But Africa Leadership Summit.org. I'll say some more about that as well. So I'll put that on there so I can make myself a reminder. So there is so much to discuss in this topic that is Africa, Israel, and Black America. I want to encourage you, those who are joining us, virtually everything that we cover, the things that we discuss. Shout out my boy David K out there in New Jersey, and New York, all over the place. He owns it all. He has it all. He's running everything. He's running things out there. How's everybody doing? You can go to IBSI.org. That is our website, IBSI.org. Our graphics team just did a reboot on it and everything, and real new design. It's amazing. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work. You can find access to a lot of our information, our educational videos, the Peace Initiative, which I'll touch on as well. Africa Israel Weekly is our Substack where you can go and read our articles because we go in depth in some of these things that we discuss. And there's so much that's connected to it. So again, first of all, welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad that you all are here. I do want to get into it. Again, for those of you on Clubhouse, what I'm going to try to do, if I can, thank you, ma'am. Hey, check that out, Elizabeth. I actually saw the little note on there. I really am somewhat tech savvy, y'all, just that I haven't done Clubhouse in a good minute, and I'm not really sure. I guess some stuff has changed, and I don't want to can't. Yep. All right. I'll just mess that. I'll leave that alone for right now. So yeah, let's get started. I want to be able to hear from you, though, there of you on Clubhouse. So however I can make that happen, I will try to do that. I think that you have to actually come up to the stage to be able to say something. If I'm not mistaken, that's how that works. Once I figure out how to be able to let you do that, I definitely want to be able to do that. So my apologies in advance again. Again, shout out to everyone that's there, that's joining us. Appreciate you guys joining us here on today. I want to start here. I said something earlier already about a little bit about the origins of IBSI, more about my return. It was started at Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel in the summer of 2013. And after a year of speaking, joined as a listener. Okay, I see something right there. All right, see some stuff's happening there. After about a year of speaking in churches, synagogues, college campuses, doing events and making coalition partners, our very first coalition partner, our first organization that we actually worked with, other than obviously pastors and other leaders, was with Stand With Us. our friends, Mr. Roz Rothstein. Shout out to Michael Dixon, who's the head of Stand With Us in Jerusalem in Israel. Back in 2014, I believe, around the spring or so. So we did that for about a year. Was asked by my friend at that time, he was the executive director of Christians United for Israel, David Brogg, to come on staff there. Served for about 7 years as the diversity outreach coordinator. This Israel thing has been something a part of my life for a long time. The Africa part as a part of my life as well for a long time. Those things kind of merged together. My first trip to Israel in 2012, my first ever trip to Israel. As a pastor, as part of the African American Pastors Tour with Christians United for Israel. I wasn't on staff at the time, but it was led by the very capable and very amazing Dr. Michael Stevens, who is a pastor out here in the Charlotte area. And we had an amazing time. And the trajectory of what my life was changed then, because my passion for Africa, my passion for the Black community, my community, and this passion for Israel, these things all kind of, melded there. And I left Jerusalem. I left Israel then. It was Hanukkah, during Hanukkah of 2012, with a real strong desire to strengthen that tie, strengthen the Black-Jewish tie, strengthen the Israel-Africa tie. And I always make these qualifications. Black-Jewish doesn't mean they're not Black Jews. Jews are Black, they're white, they're brown. They're not a color, but we're talking about in terms of both culturally, just historically, there's been this synergy when it comes to the Black and Jewish communities, whether it's religious part of it or whether it's other parts of it in terms of society. And so there's a reason why that's there. So I actually wrote a book called Zionism in the Black Church once I got back. And the second edition was released. The first edition was released in 2014. The second edition in February of 2021. And it is on Amazon and it's in the Kindle. You can get it in audiobook and everything. For those of you who would like to check that out, go on our website to ibsi.org, click store, ibsi.org, click store, and other merch that's there as well. All of that helps us as a nonprofit to do the work that we do. And so the second edition was expanded, had a lot of other information in it and everything. And I had never written a book. I had never started an organization like IBSI. This was just something that was a step of faith for me, as our Jewish friends would say, a lech lecha moment. And it has been a wild ride. It has been intimidating and foreboding and amazing and great and all of those things at once. And one of the things that we've done for the first time is a type of outreach, which is when we establish our peace initiative. Peace in this context is an acronym for Plan for Education, Advocacy, and Community Engagement, in which we recruited several Black men and women from across the country. And we say Black, we mean they are of African descent, whether they are Jewish, whether there's one young lady who's of Arab Palestinian Christian descent. So she's both African American and Palestinian. We recruited these amazing, what we call affectionately IBSI ambassadors. Recruited meaning literally their link went out. They clicked on it. They filled out the information. They were interviewed by our team. I was not part of that team that did the vetting, but they actually were interviewed. And they signed up for what we call a 9-month journey, right? So I'll come back to the 9-month journey. At the end of that 9 months was June, in which that journey ended and another one has begun. June was when we went to Israel. So in that 9 months, and we just returned from Israel, I'll connect these two together. We started in September of 2022, and we would come together every month for several hours, like a workshop on Zoom. And we delved into and unpacked different topics around Israel, around Africa, around Black America, the Jewish diaspora, all these different things. There's 16 different courses that we unpacked. Hello from Texas. Hey, Texas was up there at the Lone Star State. I see you there on IG. And those topics included ancient Israel, modern Israel, the ancient Africa-Israel relationship, the modern Africa-Israel relationship, the Black Civil Rights Movement, especially in terms of the Jewish-Black synergy in the midst of that, authentic Black history when we're talking about that as a jumping off point, as a foundation for actually understanding these things. And we're talking about that. We're talking about going back to the Negro spirituals that were sung on the slave plantations, what that has to do with today, going up to the gospel music part of it. We talked about geopolitics, Israel's relationship with Ghana, Kenya, all of those things, how the civil rights community, even and the other Black leaders, particularly before, were very much connected to what was going on the continent of Africa, as well, obviously, what was going on in the United States. So we had all these different conversations. We had speakers from Africa, speakers from Israel, policy makers, and different ones. And our main partner in Israel, our friends out there, shout out to Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs under the able leadership of Dr. Dan Diker. And they spoke, Dan spoke, Dr. Mordecai Kedar, and different ones. And we unpacked a lot of information. And IBSI chose the topics and the speakers based on the types of things that we felt that people from whatever portion of the Black community needed to know when it came to Israel, Israel advocacy, Israel-Africa relations, Black-Jewish synergy, all of these things. We had to pick, and there's way more than 16 topics, but in terms of what exists, it's unlimited. But we try to pick topics that we felt that were the most salient when it came to these topics, what we felt these IBSI ambassadors needed to understand, and the expert knowledge that we tried to bring to the table and allow them to have access to ask questions. It wasn't just lecture and speaking. They were able to talk and ask questions and be involved in that process. And then there were 2 trips, overseas trips, that were taken during the process of that 9 months. December was the motherland, June was the Holy Land. In December, we went to South Africa and had an amazing experience. We traveled the country. We were there 10 days. We're in Johannesburg. We're in different parts of Johannesburg, including Soweto. We're in Pretoria. We went to Cape Town, saw the beauty. We talked about politics, business. We talked to young Black South African entrepreneurs. We talked to those who were over different organizations that did all kinds of amazing humanitarian work there in the country, Jewish, Black South African. Several of them were from the tribe that's escaping me already, one of the original tribes there in the South African region. And so we just it was an amazing time. And so we also, among other things, had a real discussion in real time about what apartheid actually was and why it is insane to compare that to the Jewish state of Israel. No nation is perfect. That's one of those crazy things you have to say during this time. But having said all that, Israel now is not an apartheid state. The lies that have been told, right? So we went to prison number 4, and I don't even want to get into that some other time. But just it was so shaking that even my daughter-in-law, Olga, who's from South Africa, it was even emotional for her, even though she knows this history very well. But some things just really, really hit again, right? And of course, we went to Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was held for over 2 decades there in prison. We had those conversations. We had the conversations about Nelson Mandela's relationship with Yasser Arafat, his advocating for the rights of the Palestinians, and at the same time never denying Israel's right to exist and defend itself. All of these things. We had some difficult conversations, some powerful conversations. And again, these IBSI ambassadors are absolutely amazing people. We continued on that monthly meeting and then headed to the Holy Land last month. And ladies and gentlemen, just like the South Africa trip, the Israel trip was amazing. I've had the privilege of traveling. I've been to South Africa several times. I've been to Israel. That was like number 13 or 14. I don't remember exactly, somewhere around in there. And it never is the same. It's always something new. So many of those IBSI ambassadors who went, it was their first time, and being able to see it through their eyes, to experience it from Jerusalem up to the Galilee to Tel Aviv, and just, kibbutz Malkia, kibbutz kibbutz Malkia, a couple of other ones as well. Went to the border where Lebanon is, went to the border of Syria. It was, and we talked to IDF, we talked to uh, um, other leaders. There was a couple of Knesset meetings we were trying to finish scheduling. We weren't able to finish those, but we were at the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs and spoke to other leaders in different areas of Israel. It was another, again, a 10-day trip. Um, we actually made a very special video for our donors and coalition partners when we returned. And let me pause while I'm telling you about both the IBSI ambassadors, who are amazing, about their 9-month journey, which was amazing. I want to thank all of the supporters, all of our donors, all of our coalition partners, all of our prayer warriors out there praying for us and everything. I want to thank you so much for your sacrifices, your labor, your giving, all of those things. They meant so much. We would not have been able to do it without you. I don't say that lightly, flippantly. We would not have been able to do it without all of your help, right? So we want to thank you again. The journey was amazing. These IBSI ambassadors will never be the same. And though that 9-month journey has ended, their next part of it begins. Part of the peace initiative, and you can go on our website, IBSI.org, and the peace initiative stands for Plan for Education, Advocacy, and Community Engagement. And you can find out more about it. There's a couple of videos that are up there about if you want to enroll, and I'll say some more about that. Those who might want to partake in it, because we will be doing it again. We're starting it already, the enrollment process for this next year, the 2023-2024 class. But you can find out about what that all entails, the learning, the travel. And then we are encouraging and helping our IBSI ambassadors set up, not even both physically and then just ideologically, TESFA centers. TESFA is the Amharic word for hope. It's so funny how it's so close to the word tikva, which is the Hebrew word for hope. There's a lot of similarities between those two languages for lots of different reasons, both Semitic languages, but we'll talk about that at another date as well. And that means that those IBSI ambassadors in cities across the country, they're from California to New Jersey, they will be part of the hub of Black Jewish synergy in their communities. And one of the many unique things about our approach is that their advocacy and their knowledge that they share will be done very organically for them. Those that have been recruited, these IBSI ambassadors, some are in the areas of education, some in politics, some in entrepreneurialism, in just different areas, right? There's other ones who are in different nonprofit and civil rights types of things. And because there was no selection process in which we chose based on what their vocation was and everything. There are certain criteria that's there. And when you go on the website, IBSI.org, click on either the clergy version or the IBSI ambassadors, you'll see more information there. But again, some of the criteria, without getting to all the details, just had to do, first of all, they don't have to be Christian, Jewish, or Muslim. They just have to have a religious faith. They have to have some sort of spiritual center for them, right? Whatever their faith is, one of the criteria is that they be people of faith. Why? Because some of the themes that we deal with, though I'm a Christian, IBSI is not a Christian organization. It's not a Jewish organization. I mean, what it is we deal with geopolitics, but we do deal with religion. We deal with scripture, that type of thing. I'll give you a quick example. One of the things we talk about often is that the foundation, what we often point to as the first Africa-Israel summit ever in history, was when the Queen of Sheba traveled all the way some 1,500 miles to visit King Solomon in Jerusalem 3,000 years ago. Now, for the non-religious or the people who kind of dismiss that as, that's the Bible, it's both in the Jewish Bible, but it's also in the Kebra Nagas, the Ethiopians' history, their religious history and civil history as well. But for those, for example, who say, "Oh, dismiss that has nothing to do with anything." Well, it does, and that fact that someone may not agree, that's fine. But there is a religious and spiritual context to that story that we actually glean from in different areas of our discussion when it comes to Israel, Africa, and the Black Jewish connection in the United States and in the diaspora. So that's just one example. There's more than that. That's just one example of dealing with some biblical themes or even religious or spiritual themes, even though, again, we're not a religious organization. So they can be Christian, they can be Muslim, they can be Jewish, right? They can be another faith, they can be Baha'i, whatever their faith is. That's not a deal breaker for us. We're not looking for someone who's a co-religionist in that sense. We're looking for people who may be spiritually minded, have that as part of their lives, that's part of their spiritual community, and that type of connection that's there. Other things are how they think, how they process, right? How do you think? We don't care if you're Democrat, Republican. We don't care, independent, apolitical, very political. Those things are not the issue for us, right? Our issue is, do you think critically, right? We want to actually have conversations. What do you know about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, right? We're not looking for anybody who's an expert. You may not know very much about it at all. Our thing is, can you have the conversation? And ladies and gentlemen, when I say to you, we had difficult conversations, I say to the IBSI ambassadors already all the time, real leaders do the work. There's work that goes into actually providing direction, guidance in any area. I don't care if you're a parent, if you're a pastor, if you're a rabbi, if you're a mayor, if you're a governor, whatever your leadership role, you're a daycare center, a daycare provider, right? Whatever your role is, in which you are actively, you may be doing it passively, actively leading other people, helping shape their minds or destinies, or giving them whatever advice or whatever that is. There's work that's involved in it that requires you. No, you're not going to ever know anything. And shout out, we say this as a parent. My wife and I have been married 35 years. We've raised 6 children. They're amazing people. God is very gracious to us, very good to us. We're not any more perfect parents than anybody else. We made our mistakes, all of those things. What we find, though, is that the leaders, whether it's a parent or anyone else, the authenticity that you have to bring to the table is you. There has to be the honesty that's there that says, no, I may not know everything, but I do recognize that this is my responsibility to give you guidance, to give you advice, what you ultimately, especially when the kids are older, right? I can't make anybody do anything, right? Okay, here's my advice. Here's what I would say to you, but hey, you go out and do what you need to do. I'm with you. I'm praying for you. I got your back, or whatever, right? So there has to be that level of authenticity that's actually there, and it requires work, right? And what we mean by that is also when we say real leaders do the work, we're talking about the fact that finding solutions, especially, ladies and gentlemen, navigating through difficult situations, right? One of my favorite philosophers, the economist Thomas Sowell, basically said any idiot can make a decision between what's good and bad, what's blatantly right and wrong, right? The difficult decisions are when there's those gray areas. What's worse, what's bad, and what's worse? How do I decide which way to do this in a way that's not going to cause as much damage? How do I minimize what could be very damaging? Those are the decisions that keep you up at night, right? How do I do this in a way that's going to bring the maximum amount of help and healing and restoration, or whatever it is I'm trying to do? How do I do that in a way when I have all these things that are connected to it, right? So we talked about it, right? Let me give you one quick example as I keep going for the ambassadors. When we were in South Africa and we were having conversations around apartheid, the apartheid system, how the Afrikaners who were in charge, it was if you were white, you were in this status. If you were quote unquote colored, you are on this other middle status. If you were black, you were on this status, and always lower in terms of a caste system, right? Where you could go to school, where you could live, what you could do. It was like a demi laws for our Jewish brothers and sisters during it still exists now in certain Islamic or Islamist states in which Jews can only own this, they can only live here, they can't, like the Jim Crow laws of the South, right? There's the similarity that's there of the Jim Crow South here in the United States. Black people can't do this, we're called Black Code. There was another part of it, what you couldn't do, where you couldn't go to school. Of course, during slavery, you could not read, and you couldn't be taught to read, all of those things, right? So you had all these restrictions that were there. Now that was 20 plus years ago. The party that's in power since the days of Nelson Mandela is the African National Congress. They are, without me getting into political discussions around the ANC, which is not what I want to do on today. We can do that some other time, especially when Olga is with me. But suffice to say that there are a lot of problems that are besetting the South African people, particularly the poor, and particularly the Black poor. Education, job. There's a 40% unemployment rate. And for those of you who may be from South Africa, please, as I'm giving these stats, I'm not running down, I'm not attacking the country. I'm just telling the people what's actually going on. Almost a third of the country is on some sort of government assistance in terms of not being able to find jobs, and there's a great deal of poverty. There's high drug addiction in certain areas and everything like that. It's a very, very difficult time. Now, we got our own problems in the United States. I mean, it's not a judgment. I'm saying what's actually going on. The problems are very deep and pervasive. And one of the conversations we were saying is that we meaning the IBSI ambassadors, for anyone who thought that the destruction of the apartheid, evil, racist system by default was going to mean peace, prosperity, and long life for everybody in the nation, that person was naive. Because the breaking of the wicked system was only step one. Think about it like the Hebrews who left Egypt. The redemption part wasn't just leaving Egypt. Now we're dealing with the wilderness. Now we're dealing with the Amalekites. Now we're dealing even with our own selves, our own minds. We're fighting against Moses. Moses, what are you doing? Your GPS is broken. You're crazy. How can we keep wandering all those other places, right? So the leaving Egypt was a huge thing. But in terms of the scriptural, the narrative that we understand was that was the ending of one thing for the Hebrews and the mixed multitude, the Arab Rav, and the beginning of another thing. And this is the same thing that's in life. That's what's going on in South Africa. The ending of the apartheid system was one thing, but now another thing in terms of the governance. And so this is a very, very crucial, difficult time for South Africa. I'm just using it as an example because that's where we were. And when we were looking at solutions, how this is addressed, the funding, the load shedding in terms of the energy, the electricity that's not consistent in the country, why that is, and what's going on with these resources, and who has access to school now, and the unemployment rate now, even versus what was going on during apartheid. We're having all these difficult conversations, and this one I think I was saying to them, real leaders do the work, meaning there's no magic wand. There's no magic poof. All right, we're going to erase racism. We're going to end all hatred. Okay, first of all, that's never going to happen, right? There's always going to be people who hate. But then when it comes to the moving forward process, that is every bit as difficult as fighting against the oppression. Black leaders learned it as well. The civil rights pinnacle of 64 and 65, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, and here now, what's one of the biggest controversies in the United States right now? Affirmative action. What it means, what it doesn't mean, how it's translated in the college thing, what this judgment was in the Supreme Court. Here's something that was part of the legislative process of the 60s is still impacting right now today, and there's no consensus around it, right? Within the Black community itself, you have a great deal of debate about what affirmative action is, was, should be, should it not be, quotas, all of those types of things. So again, those at the helm have to make decisions based on lots of different factors, right? And we said real leaders do the work. Leaders meaning that there are times leaders have to make decisions that are somewhat unpopular with a group, maybe with a lot of people, but they may feel that that's the best course for whatever this actual implementation is, and so on and so forth. That's what we mean by that. So when we do the vetting, one of the things that our team is doing, we are assessing, how does this person think? Not do they think like me? Do they please me? Our team is looking at so asking them questions, having a conversation. Why? We are assessing, the IBSI is assessing, is this person a good fit for the peace initiative? Is this something that's actually for them? Maybe this isn't a good time. They can do it later. Maybe this doesn't really fit what it is that they think. Even during the interview process, they may say, okay, this may not be, maybe this is what I thought it was. Like one of our IBSI ambassadors said, if they're signing up, for example, like, oh, it's a these things are actually funded by our donors, right? They pay each person pays a relatively small registration fee, but by the generosity of our donors. And again, shout out to our donors and our supporters. And if you would like to become one, we would love your help. This is a nonprofit organization. Everything that you give is tax deductible, and it goes to doing this work. This is one aspect of it, our peace initiative, right? Go to IBSI.org, click donate, and you can become a legacy builder for as little as $10 a month and just be a monthly giver as well, right? So for those though then who may have been signing up, because it's basically all expense paid trips to Africa and Israel, woo, sign me up. Well, part of our vetting process is to help that person understand that that's not what this is, that this is going to be a great deal of work. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be potentially, as some of them have said, life changing, life altering, all these things, because it is going to, the biggest challenge is me, right? Me confronting me. One of my, it was many favorite stories I have in the Bible, but the whole Jacob wrestling with the angel is, my God, is there a better metaphor? Someone wrestling with themselves, right? What's always powerful to me about that story about Jacob and the angel is the prayer that he prayed before he went to sleep, right? He's trying to reconcile with his brother Esau, who he did real dirty, right? He's like going, man, I really messed up. I really want to be reconciled with my brother. And he prays this prayer, hey, God, I need you. And man, I've really come to this place in my life, and I need you. This is a real moment for me. And that wrestling, to me anyway, started then, right? He's already kind of wrestling with his thoughts and everything. And then he wrestles with the angels. It says, I think that there's that process for all of us, right? There are certain seasons in our lives where we're having conversations with ourselves, right? We're like, okay, where am I? What's happening right now? What is it that I'm learning about me in order for me to kind of move forward to this next thing? And how I'm willing to have that conversation has everything to do with the healthy way I move forward. Putting off those conversations, when I'll be put my preacher hat on for a moment, you're just prolonging the inevitable. At some point, your mind will want to talk to yourself about, hey, let's have this conversation. It always happens. So that's another conversation. I won't get too deep on this first day back. So anyway, this is what we do with them, not the whole, wrestling with them, but we do have conversations with them. These ambassadors that we were so blessed to have with us over these last 9 months, and now they're planning their test for center things, what they're doing in their areas, the types of things that they're working on. Some are writing articles, some are preparing Hebrew translations for these other materials and everything. One of our wonderful ambassadors, she is deaf and mute and does sign, and she's preparing some materials for others who we just sign, and it would just open up a whole other world to us. And then her our interpreter. We didn't have an interpreter in South Africa. We didn't foresee. We thought we could do it in terms of technology. It didn't really work. And Danielle was just so gracious and everything. So she probably missed about 50% of what was going on in the terms of some of the communication. She got everything right in terms of what she was seeing and experiencing. But we had the privilege of having an interpreter join us for Danielle in Israel. Amazing. We got to have Dana on at some point. Just amazing. Just immediately part of the family. And so it opens up a whole nother world. So we're so excited about that as well. So all that to say about the IBSI ambassadors and their 9-month journey, which they just concluded. It's just going to be, again, I've been to Israel multiple times, being there with them. We'll never forget it. It was an amazing experience. So any of you, if you are of African descent, I told you this is for Black Americans and African descent. And for those of you who think, oh, let me racist. No, the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, by its name, its primary focus is the Black community or the African diaspora, where it comes to Israel, when it comes to Black-Jewish relations, all of those things, right? And we talk about why a lot. I mean, I'm not going to probably have time to unpack that whole thing, but in my book, Zionism in the Black Church, I discuss all these different things. I am the first I think, chapter or the introduction of the book, I say that there is no church for those Christians. The church is universal. The church is not black or white, right? It's the every nation, tribe, kindred, and tongue. So even the title of the book doesn't denote that somehow there's a separate black church and white church and Hispanic church and all that kind of. Yeah, there's churches that might have a specific demographic, but there's mixed churches. All that. That's not what it is. We're talking about an ethos. We're actually talking about a heritage, right? Which is why I go all the way back to the whole biblical narrative. We talk about Ham and Shem and Japheth and all of those things. We talk about the Negro spirituals, Go Down Moses, Did My Lord Deliver Daniel, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Why those songs were what they were. Why those slaves on those plantations were singing these songs almost exclusively set in the Old Testament, some in the New Testament as well, right? Why Lift Every Voice and Sing is what it is. And I'll say something more about that as well. So what that song means, what it doesn't mean, right? Became a political football with all of the Black Lives Matter stuff and all of the NBA and the NFL stuff, which is unfortunate because Lift Every Voice and Sing has nothing to do with politics whatsoever. What was James Weldon Johnson saying to the people? What does it mean now? All of those things. So there's a history that's there when it comes to Black Americans, when it comes to those of African descent, and there's an intertwined history when it comes to Israel, when it comes to Zion, when it comes to Jerusalem. So these are the things that we teach, that we unpack, because of the importance of those things being known, right, and actually applied when it comes to this whole advocacy thing. Doesn't mean that we're an exclusive. We don't talk to white people or white Jews or quote unquote white Jews and black. We only talk to black Jews. None of that stuff. That's not what that means. It means our focus in terms of our work is in the Black community in the African diaspora. Now, if that's you and you're interested in that, if you're interested in the Peace Initiative, all you need to do is go to ibsi.org. If you are a pastor, a bishop, a pastor, or a church ministry, Christian ministry leader, this one is religious specific. We have what's called the IBSI pastors, or the clergy edition of the Peace Initiative. We are already beginning signups now. We are only taking 20 of each group. We will accept, have to do all the vetting and everything, 20 IBSI pastors for the 2023-24 season and 20 IBSI ambassadors for the same season. They will begin their journey this September. And like this first group, though they won't do it, they'll be separate. There'll be a parallel track. They won't do it together. The pastors will head to South Africa in late November, early December. Right behind them will be the IBSI ambassadors in December. And then the pastors will head to Israel in late May. Yes. And then the IBSI ambassadors in early June 2024. So this 9-month journey starts again. It'll be another wild ride. Again, we're very grateful. We can only do it with your help. We need your help. We need your donation help. We need your prayers. We need your support. If you are interested in becoming an IBSI ambassador or IBSI pastor and going through this journey and making these trips overseas, go to ibsi.org. You'll see right there on the homepage, it'll say you can click on becoming the clergy edition of the IBSI ambassadors. It'll say clergy, and then it'll just say IBSI ambassador. So clergy and IBSI ambassadors, you'll see those two there. You click on it, there's information that's there. There's a little video you can watch that does a quick little overview of it. You fill out the application, get the information to us. We then set up an interview with you. For the IBSI ambassadors, I have nothing to do with the interview process. For the IBSI pastors, I do with other pastors who are part of our staff, our interview staff. And again, we're doing that for the vetting process is to make sure it's a good fit, that the Peace Initiative is a good fit for the person who's interested. We're speaking with pastors in Milwaukee and Southern California and Atlanta. That part is already happening. And so there are those who are already interested and they're beginning to get the information. And so the cutoff, I believe, is August the 25th. We will stop taking applications August 25th. So we still got, what's this, early month, July, about a little less than 2 months, right? So those of you who are interested, go to ibsi.org, or you can just email us. You can contact us there as well. info@ibsi-now.org. info@ibsi-now.org. And if you want to ask a couple questions, if you want to actually, before you apply, have a discussion around that, we can do that as well. We'd be honored to hear from you and go on this journey with you. This is we're honored to do it. We're just honored to be in this space, as difficult as a time as it is in our world, our nation, and our world. It's also a time of great opportunity to do great good. And so with God's help, we're going to continue to move forward. Again, would not been able to have done this. I can't put into words that 9 months. You all can't. The trip to South Africa, the trip to Israel, everything. Just absolutely amazing. We're also having a thank you Zoom session in a couple of weeks. It's an exclusive one for the donors and the coalition partners, where some of our IBSI ambassadors will be there to kind of interact with them as well. But we'll have opportunities for you to hear from them as well here soon. As Joshua and Olga are doing some of these parts, you're going to be hearing from them, even in our clubhouse sessions and everything, so they can kind of tell you what they saw, what they're doing as well. And so we can hear from you with them too. All right. So IBSI.org to find out about that. All right. That's the IBSI ambassadors, IBSI pastors. Again, there's a 2 separate tracks, right? The IBSI pastors, that's if you're a bishop, a pastor, a ministry leader. Again, that's specific for Christians, for Christian ministry leaders. The IBSI pastors is for Christians. The IBSI ambassadors is not religious specific. You can be Christian, you can be Jewish, you can be Muslim. Again, we want you to have a spiritual a footing, right? Whatever community you're a part of or whatever. But the IBSI pastors is specifically for Christian pastors. I want to let you guys know that. All right. So good. IBSI.org and find out about that. Let me see here if I can look on here. Boom. Yep. Yep. Cool. All right. So making sure they're seeing this right here. All right. So now, and then for the pastors, all these things are recorded. So whether you're seeing it right now, you see it a little bit later on. Those of you who already reached out, thank you so much. And I want to give a specific shout out. I know she's not with us right now. Pastor Melva Henderson, and also Pastor Skip Henderson for out there, World Outreach Church out there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Love you all. Appreciate you. Also, just shout out to you, Pastor Melva, and the leaders there. Just been so supportive of and just such a blessing for years, right? Pastor Tim McMurtry, one of the associate pastors as well. Pastor Melva, among many other things, helped me edit the book. Her, and shout out to Wendy Cruz. I don't see it with Wendy Cruz as well out there in Milwaukee as well. Just wanted to just do that. That wasn't even on my notes, but just shout out to you all. Really appreciate you all. You guys, what's happening with IBSI is a movement. We're not the movement. It is a movement. And what we're seeing is that God is the one doing it. We're just trying to hold on for dear life. And one of the ways that we know it's a quote unquote movement is because there are amazing men and women who are bringing all kinds of gift, talents, abilities, and everything to it. And it's not about us, right? They feel a call themselves. I had a conversation with a pastor down in Atlanta just the other day, who God's been talking to them about the Israel, Africa. This is happening in the atmosphere, right? I'm having conversations with African pastors and leaders who are starting different NGOs and all this Israel and Jerusalem and all these different things. Let me pause here and say this. I guess I can shoehorn this in here right here. I will be, God say the same, in Israel again for the 4th time. Before this year is over, I will have traveled to Israel 5 times. The first time I've gone 5 times in 1 year. Again, God say the same. We've gone the first 3 already. I was there in February and there in March, both times working with our partners at Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs. Again, shout out to Dan Diker and Tirza and everybody out there at JCPA. And then, of course, this 3rd time was with the IBSI ambassadors. Again, amazing time. I will be there in late July, early August with the Africa Leadership Summit. And if you want to join me, you're more than welcome. You go to africaleadershipsummit.org. Registration is already passed, but you click on it and say that you heard it from Pastor Demisani. And then, after I get in a little bit of trouble, they can still register. You would love to have you join us. You don't have to be African, right? If you want to know about what this is, shout out to Pastor Shagan. That's a shortened version of his name. He is Nigerian, lives in South Africa. We were introduced to him by my daughter-in-law, Olga. We had some time with him. Man, just the conversations, right? The conversations in the scriptures, the conversations about history. This has just been a rich time. So shout out to Pastor Shagan for what he is doing. So the Leadership Conference, the Leadership Summit will be there. You can join us, africaleadershipsummit.org. Click on that. You can register. It's about a 3-day conference. And then they have another 4 days where they'll be taking a tour of the Holy Land. So I'll be there for the conference, maybe for the first part of the tour, but I'll have to be heading back in early August. But I will be there for several days. Some of my Israeli friends who have been reaching out, I may not be able to connect with you this time. I'll be there for a little less than a week, about 6 days or so. I have a couple of meetings that are set up that I was not able to execute the last time that I was there. So we're going to try to do that. And then that's the Africa Leadership Summit. And then we're taking a Christian Hebrew Roots ministry trip in December. I don't even have that link that's on there, but I'll try to put it up there for you. So Dumisani Washington Ministries is actually leading its first Holy Land tour this December. Another commercial shout out. So I'm going to put this link somewhere. I have no idea where. I'll send it and somebody can make it known somewhere else. So you can go to, actually, if you want to find out about that and join us for that Israel tour in December. That's December the 17th through the 27th in the Holy Land. You can go to dumisaniwashington.com. dumisaniwashington.com. You'll what's that? Okay, I thought I heard something else. Yep, dumisaniwashington.com. And you can click on there and you can register and join us there. So that'll be my 5th time in the Holy Land this year. I ain't mad at nobody. I'm, get a little jet lag, but it's all good. It's all good. It's all right. So I want you to join us for either one of those. Would love to have you all with us, right? So now I'm trying to click on something. Okay, right. So now here, I want to also let you know we're talking about the IBSI's work. And shout out to our friends at David and Goliath Project, headed by Mr. David K. and his amazing, capable staff. We have launched a brand new YouTube series entitled Superheroes, right? It is on YouTube. You can find some of the clips and information on Instagram as well. So the two main platforms are Instagram and YouTube. And it is a series that deals with men and women from the African diaspora, historical figures who've done extraordinary things. Some known, some not really known. Known of, I should say, but some not really known as well. The first 2 episodes have already started. It started last Sunday. Each Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, the new episode will hit. So the first 2 have already been released. The first one is about Lift Every Voice and Sing. That was from last 2 Sundays ago. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but that was towards the end of June. And then this last one a couple of days ago was actually Tulsa's Black Wall Street, the real story, a short version of it, but the real story of Tulsa's Black Wall Street, the Greenwood District, right? Reverend Solomon Sir Jones, who captured a lot of that on video or on film, if you will, back in the early 1900s, how it was destroyed, of course, but rebuilt 2 years later, less than 2 years later. So that series has just begun. Can you do your boy a favor and check it out? I want you to go to Superheroes show, and it's on the link. Again, it is on YouTube. I can't post the link for you here just because I'm a little limited in what I can kind of get access to and then send to different platforms. But if you go to the name of the page is Superhero. Oh, I'm sorry. If you go to Superheroes and you'll see that page on Superheroes, and then the actual tag there on YouTube is Superheroes_show, right? If you would mind, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and click there, subscribe. You'll get a notification and hit the notification bell. That's right. And you'll be notified when the next episodes come. The first 2 episodes are up. Again, episodes 1 and 2. James Weldon Johnson, Lift Every Voice and Sing. And then Reverend Solomon Sir Jones, Tulsa Black Wall Street. Again, shout out to David Goliath Project. They're amazing professionals. They made stuff look, when they make it look like I kind of know what I'm doing, I know they're doing a great job. I told that to Prager U way back in the day. My first video with Prager, I had to, help do the script and everything like that and read it, and they made it look amazing. I said, hey, well, you guys made it look like, Brother knew what he's doing. So cool. Thank you. So this crew is amazing, right? And so we're just getting it started. So we just started it. Again, it's been 8 days old now, 9 days old or something like that. All right. So please check that out and you can see that information there. The next one is coming up. I don't even know which one it is. It doesn't matter to me because we've done about 7 of them. Shout out to Mr. David K. We're going to have to be talking sometime in the next couple of days. I know the setup when I'm coming back out there for us to shoot some more of the other videos. We have a surprise for you as well. The Mr. Ian Rowe was gracious enough to give us the first interview that's part of the superheroes series. And so again, thank you so much, Mr. Ian, for doing that. We'll have other interviews as well. So now, as you can probably hear, my studio is also part of my house. It is nighttime on the East Coast. They are shooting fireworks, even though it's not the 4th, but they're getting ready. They fired up. I ain't mad at them. Everything's just loud. And I have a dog who's barking. So those of you who have dogs, and you've had them any length of time, and you had to deal with the whole fireworks thing, you know exactly what a brother's going through right now. So I can only hope that he's not barking so loud that you can't hear me. I'm sure you probably can. If not, then somebody will flag me down and let me know. So my apologies for my dog. Kefa is his name. He's actually quite old. He doesn't think that he's old, but in dog years, he's got to be 80 something, nearly 90 something years old. But since I'm talking about it, he is a black lab shepherd mix. Everything, sometimes a little problem getting up in the morning, stretches and everything. Of course, when he sees a squirrel, he thinks he's 2 years old again. He goes tearing after it and everything. So he doesn't know he's old, but he doesn't like those fireworks. So apologize for that. So superhero series, please check that out. Let me say this last comment here, or I want to touch on this here. I need to say something. Ironically enough, it's just on my heart. Some of you may have been following the global events. France looks like it's on fire. Those who may know who the Imam of Peace is, I don't remember his first name. Pastor will interestingly live with something. I don't see that whole thing. Yes. Sorry, you all. I missed that one on IG. My bad. The reason I mentioned the Imam, and I put the video actually on my Instagram, and it's on my Twitter page as well. I think I saw it on Facebook's IBSI's Facebook page, in which he was speaking to a news correspondent last year about the Western world. He was speaking specifically around France and some other countries, but the United States as well. Controversial for some, but my man's just spitting truth. The willingness for much of the West to import radical Islam into its borders. He makes the point that Islam is growing and is doing fine in Kuwait and Bahrain and the UAE, everything. He said, but what the West did was embrace Islamist terrorism, even when other Muslim countries are refusing to allow terrorists to run their countries, right? And he talks about it. This was last year. And it just so happens that about a year later, what are some of the images coming out of France right now? Lawlessness, chaos, the attacking of police, the attacking of citizens, and the anti-Semitism. They're defiling Jewish sites. There's been a steady stream of Jewish people leaving France for a number of years now. And let me tell you, those Jewish people who live in France, who've been leaving, some who've been there for however long, they've been there for a long time, for all the color stuff that we get so caught up with in the West, they're black, they're white. This really isn't so much which is about color. This is about the anti-Semitism that they're experiencing. Some have made aliyah to Israel. Some have gone to other parts of the world. And this has been going on for a while. The media hasn't really discussed it because it's politically incorrect to do so, right? Because in order to actually talk about what's going on, you have to actually talk about what the root causes are. Well, if you're going to actually report on it. So I'm mentioning that because for different reasons, right? First of all, that's already not a good thing. A couple of things I mentioned on social media. Number one, that type of violence. Now we're talking about Islamic extremism. We're not talking about all Muslims. As a matter of fact, one of our other coalition partners that's based in Israel, shout out to Mr. Justin Stover and Hussein, Muhammad, who's based there in Ghana. is part of what's called the Ghana-Israel Civil Diplomacy Alliance. And what they do is very similar to what IBSI does among the African Muslim population in West Africa and other parts of Africa, which is they advocate for strong Israel-Africa relationship. This is going on, ladies and gentlemen. This is not an offshoot of IBSI. It is its own thing. Brother Justin, we've known him for a while. He started doing the work. We're partnering with them as well as other partners that we have in different parts of Africa. Again, it's just people are hearing this call. I need to do this, right? And so there's no hatred for Israel among these groups of the many Muslims in different communities and everything. There is an Islamist sect that's there that's infiltrating, whether it is from the Shia ones that are there taking their orders from the mullahs of Iran and other places, right? There's the terrorism now, according to the Global Terrorism Index, Africa is now the center of the terrorism storm. It shifted from Asia now to Africa about a little bit more than a year ago. So Africa's got a lot of counterterrorism things that it's dealing with, and as it's coordinating along with Israel, right? So we're having these conversations in real time, just like the Africa-Israel Arab Summit that we were honored to attend in March in Jerusalem, the first one of its kind, hosted by JCPA. Don't want to fail to mention that. I mean, amazing. There was some 30-something African Arab countries that were there in Ghana and Kenya and Ethiopia, South Africa. Yes, South Africa. And just these different countries, of course, as well as the UAE, Saudi Arabia. It was just amazing. We were Valerie and me, my wife, and then Rabbi Mordecai, Rabbi Mordecai Ben Avraham, shout out to him. We were three of the only Black Americans there. He's Israeli. Now he made Aliyah a while ago, but he's an Orthodox rabbi that's there. We've been working together as well. We were just watching what was going on in that room. Man, that's another episode for another day, right? I gotta unpack that, right? So watching all of that, right? And so when we consider what's happening in France and how it's seemingly being overrun by Islamic extremists, and however they're going to crack down, I have no idea how they're handling that, or it really looks really bad when you're watching it, right? You don't know what else is going on, but you're watching and reading some of the reports. That's been happening in certain African nations for decades. And the UN, other international bodies, the EU, have turned a blind eye, largely. In large part, ladies and gentlemen, because they're so busy, those bodies that I just mentioned, spitting on Israel. See, the price to be paid for the anti-Semitism and the Israel hatred, ladies and gentlemen, is global. This is one of the reasons why the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel exists. It's not just about defending Israel and coming against anti-Semitism. Obviously, we're dealing with that, right? But we're doing it from the perspective in terms of the Black community, in large part because, as Dr. King himself said, when this thing gets released, and I'm paraphrasing, the Jew hatred, it impacts Black folks on a completely different level. When you're talking about the United Nations Human Rights Council, who spends the lion's share of its time demonizing and libeling Israel, Israel is terrible for women's rights when the women are the freest in the entire region, flying fighter jets and everything, right? Israel's racist when you have slavery all over the region, including 1 million alone in Libya, right? And on and on and on, right? So not only are these libels, it's not just about, oh, you're hurting the Israelis. The Israelis will be fine. They're strong. They're going to continue to move. Who's paying for that? The slaves in Libya, the slaves in Mauritania, right? The ones who are suffering the honor killings in some of these other countries, and on and so forth. The terrorism, the people who are suffering is the ones who are being ignored, so that the United Nations Human Rights Council and Amnesty International and Human Rights, not Human Rights Watch, what's the other one? I can't remember, the Ken Roth one, whatever. They sit there and spend all their time condemning Israel and can't really often get out of bed when it comes to the Christian genocide that's happening in Nigeria. Some 24,000 or so, who can count those numbers, right? Christians have been slaughtered in Nigeria over the past 12 years. Those are the numbers that we can kind of count, right? How do you really assess that? Mass graves being dug as we speak, right? So, but we don't want to talk about that, right? We want to talk about Israel
We want to talk about settlements. We want to talk about, so even if you're going to have a conversation about Israel, can it even be in proportion? No, it's just Israel. It's like it's as if the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the only thing happening on the planet. And if somehow that gets quelled, we'll have world peace. And yeah, I'm getting started, but I'm getting ready to get off this thing, right? So anyway, this is what we have been noticing, been monitoring for years. So when we watch a France who has been some of the, at times, very condescending, in other parts of the EU, oh, this was made in the West Bank. We're not going to talk to you. Oh, and boycott, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Well, so now France, and this is not a good thing, it's a bad thing, right? What's going on, the violence and all those things. Unfortunately, what they kept condemning Israel for and wasn't true, they're dealing with their own version of it now, right? And it's amazing. I've seen some of the things, the cops out there, trying to round it up, like going, oh, okay. But when the IDF does that, somehow those are the Gestapo. But you can deal with, see how the game gets played, right? So so that's what's actually going on right now. So that was the first thing. We're watching that going wild. So the Imam, I can't remember his first name. Please forgive me. It's because it says Imam of Pieces is actually the title on social media, but that's not his first name. But again, you can check out the video. He's breaking it down. I don't know him personally, so I'm not like endorsing him as I don't know. I'm just talking about that actual video, right? I don't have anything against him. I don't know him. I just seen it on there. We follow each other on Twitter and everything. We've never met. One day we might be honored to meet him, right? So he's actually breaking down just what are some truths, right? So that he said, the Muslim Brotherhood, they operate here in the United States, all over the West. The bank accounts, they set up all kind of nonprofit organizations. He said, you in your country, talking about the West, you put them in Congress. They wear hijabs and they talk about supporting Israel, supporting Iran. They come against the sanctions. That's not a too subtle jab at people like Ilhan Omar. He's actually calling it out. He's going, look, you guys have coddled a mindset that hates your country, that hates Israel, that actually makes excuses for terrorism. He said, so you make your bed, you lie in it. I was like, wow, I love just straight up, just say straight up what's going on. He said, this is what's actually happening. He said, Emmanuel Macron has said Islam has a problem. He said, no, Islam has a problem. He said, you have a problem. He said, you're the ones who keep embracing all of this radical terrorism. He said, the UAE doesn't have a problem with Islam. He said, Bahrain doesn't have a problem with Islam. These are Muslim countries. How come they don't have that problem? He said, because they don't allow that to happen where they are. It's like going, yep, they pretty much telling the truth, right? So Africa is dealing with the terrorism problem, and it has been there for a long time, right? Muslims are dying, Christians are dying, right? The Igbo Hebrews of Nigeria, they're being attacked. That doesn't really ever get talked about. Muhammad Tawhidi, I think it says on there. Miss Elizabeth, thank you so much. I will make sure that you guys are your moderators here. I'll have all my help here next time. My help. Now I'm singing some gospel songs now. Yeah, I'm almost done. Can I see my screen? Do I see what on my screen? Oh, on that part. I didn't see that part. Then my better half was asking me, did I see something on the screen? Okay, yes, ma'am. All right, I just see something on the screen here, and I see somebody asking me a question about a pastor. I think that's my friend. Shout out to Mr. David Bross. If you are asking me about a specific pastor, no, I have not heard from them, pastor. I haven't. I mean, I almost said Rabbi David. So yeah, just shoot me a note and you connect us, right? So let me go ahead and do that because I'm going to close up here in a moment. He has your information from Philadelphia. You know what? I do have another pastor, not from Philadelphia, but another gentleman from a UAME church, and I'm going to reach out to them pretty soon. All right, so I'm doing some other, not housekeeping stuff. This is all IBSI stuff, y'all, but I'm going to have to make this quick in a second here. So the France thing, let me just wrap it up by saying it's very unfortunate what's happening there. People tried to warn France and other parts of Europe about the radical Islamic terrorism element. They were pretty arrogant and not listening to that. And now it's a situation where it's really seemingly gotten out of control. While these same countries have blamed Israel, right, and have really spent a lot of their time condemning Israel, right? So this is really, it's unfortunate what's going on. It kind of goes back to wisdom, as I was telling us in our service we had this past week on the East, Zion East. Wisdom is knowledge applied. It doesn't matter what you know, ladies and gentlemen. It matters what do you know what to do with it, right? Just having knowledge is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But now, how do I apply that knowledge, right? What do I do with it actively to better my situation, to help someone, to fight against injustice? How do I use this knowledge? Or am I just an encyclopedia? Am I just spouting off? Back in the day, was that show Cheers was on there. And that dude, Cliff, always had some sort of trivia. Did you know this? Did you know that? And part of the running joke was that it was always just kind of like this trivia, right? By definition, it's like, okay, good to know, I guess, but for what, right? So unless your knowledge can be applied, you'll never have wisdom. Wisdom then is knowing not just stuff, but what to do, how to navigate, what's the next step. Do I see? Doesn't matter. Can I discern what's going on to the degree that, okay, now me and my family may need to do X, Y, and Z? And there's no magic bullet. Again, there's no exact science. But in the situation I'm comparing to France, France was being given wisdom. Israel was trying to tell you, other folks trying to tell you, hey, man, you keep playing with fire, you're going to get burned, right? So now this is actually happening, right? They consider the radical element wasn't that big a deal. Oh, yeah, we're all going to come together. Let's all, peace, love, and harmony. You can't have peace, love, and harmony with people who don't want peace, love, and harmony with you. You're going to have to check that, right? So that's what's going on right now. And it's really, really unfortunate, but I was watching that. And it reminded of a couple of things. One of those was the Africa part. And the other part of it was that, like we said here, I've said it before, I'm going to repeat myself again. The radical element here, the anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic, is just percolating in our colleges and universities, just like it is in Europe. It's happening here in the United States. Kids are being indoctrinated. They're coming out hating their families, hating their identity, hating the United States of America. Isn't it ironic that the Independence Day is on tomorrow? Fly every kind of flag that there is, but somehow flying the United States flag, somehow that's bad and evil and wrong and immoral. So they get hate their own country. Again, like I said before, only a fool would burn his own house down, right? Only a fool would burn his own house down, right? So these kids have been hate Israel, hate Jews. Jews are white oppressors, and Jews are the part of the ruling class, and blah blah blah. They're learning this stuff in school, right? And again, as we've written several articles, we talked about it. Khaled Abu Tuami, the Arab-Israeli journalist who traveled here in the early 2000s and was going to do a series of lectures and everything, never could. He said, you know what? We shouldn't be surprised if the next terrorists come not from Afghanistan, Pakistan, or from Gaza, but from the United States college campuses. This dude speaks all over the world. Born and raised in Israel and everything, and he'd been doing journalism. He started with the PLO back in the days. A young journalist, he kept telling the truth. So he's like, okay, we don't like this dude. He won't say what we want him to say. But again, he's been watching. He's like going, hey. So there are people like that who are warning the United States the same way people have been warning France. Hey, U.S., you see what's going on over there in France? Y'all about 5 minutes behind that, man. Y'all need to check that. That stuff is being taught. All that anti-American, anti-Israel, all that critical race theory the past side, it's not really being taught in colleges. See, that's the game. It is. And it's not just curriculum. It's the activist teachers that aren't even teaching content. They're teaching activism, right? Today, we're going to learn how to shut down this in the middle of the street. How about a little math? How about a little reading comprehension? Our illiteracy rates are through the roof. Our kids don't know. I mean, I'm talking about public school kids. I'm not just black, right? Black, white, Hispanic, they're going to these schools and not learning, right? This is like going, why? Because they're too busy learning how to activist this and activist that, man. How do you activate some math and some science, right? This was actually going on. And people have been warning the United States, hey, y'all need to, and y'all know we haven't get along, kids, come on, we can all just, nope. So Americans, you see what's going on in France right now? And man, I know I'm getting ready to shut this down, but we're going to go here. This administration that's boycotting Israel, we're not going to deal with even the Green Line. I haven't heard the Green Line in I don't know how many years. So we act like Judea and Samaria doesn't belong to the Jewish people. And even though there's disputed territories, so we're just going to start to boycott. We're going to boycott this, we're going to boycott that. I mean, can I say something real quick? Oh, man. To my Israeli friends, whether you are for the Netanyahu government, you're against it, that's not my point at all. I'm not even getting ready to get into Israeli politics. But when the United States president has not even met with the prime minister. See, this is not about your feels. It doesn't matter if you like Bibi. The Biden is disrespecting your state. If you think it's cool that he refuses to even acknowledge or meet with your prime minister because you don't like your prime minister, what are you going to do when you like your prime minister and then the United States blows them off? Right? You got to think beyond your thing. It's not about you, right? So when I'm talking about that relationship, I'm not speaking for Israelis. I'm speaking as an American. This conversation around the billions of dollars being freed up for the Mullah regime there in Iran, the whole we fund the UN Council of Inquiry against Israel, the funding of Palestinian terrorism against Israel, all these kind of, yeah, I'm a free American, free black and 21. That's my father always say what I want to say, right? Freedom of speech. We believe in freedom of free speech. And I'm watching this administration. And if it makes you upset when we say something about it, whatever, man. I'm trying to make you upset, but I ain't tripping on you, right? I'm watching what's actually happening. Let me say this one last thing. I posted something the other day. Was it yesterday? Oh, that's right. I listed these different things. This is how the Biden administration is boycotting Israel. This is how the Biden administration is funding the UN Council of Inquiry against Israel. About 4 or 5 different things. Just look quick. And a couple people came on there. The first thing out their mouth was Trump. But Trump, it's like, no, he's talking about Trump. This is the whole, no, but Pastor Bisani, because Trump. Did I say Trump? What? It is the fact that I'm telling you what this administration is doing where Israel is concerned, and the first thing you say is Trump. One of us has an issue, and it's not me. I didn't say Donald Trump. I said, here is what this administration is doing. If Donald Trump's administration were doing that, I say the Donald Trump administration is boycotting Israel, blah, blah, yada, 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 right? That's just amazing, right? And this is part of the problem. We can't deal with what's factually on the ground for tripping about what somebody might be saying about, man, we so caught up in our feels. Man, all right, so I'm about to go because I got a lot of other stuff I need to do. And I got to fly out of town on tomorrow. But I just want to say a couple of those last things as well. Just kind of watch what's going on with France, ladies and gentlemen. Please take heed. I'm telling the provost and the presidents and all these regents, these schools, you watching this? Are you watching what this is going on? Right? So lack of wisdom would mean no, you're not watching it. One of the things that as a pastor and a preacher, teacher in the word, I so appreciate the knowledge and the wisdom that comes from the Jewish sages, comes from the Torah studies of different rabbis and everyone's, and having the conversations I'm able to have and honored to have, and everything's Torah scholars and stuff like that. Just amazing. And one of the concepts that was introduced to me a while ago was the whole concept of being worthy of redemption, worthy of the redemption, the whole redemption story. The sages teach that the first redemption will reflect the last redemption, meaning what happened in Egypt and coming out with the Exodus is a foreshadowing of when Messiah comes, when there's actually the final redemption, if you will. And it's amazing that that story, especially where the commentator, with the Rambams and the Rashis and different ones are concerned, it's just absolutely amazing. And it makes me reflect so much on what's happening now. There's one thing for your deliverance to be nigh. There's one thing for it to be time for a great move, a great awakening. It's another thing to be ready for it, right? It's another thing to have been prepared for what's actually happening. And this is very much, as I get ready to close it out here tonight, where I see us as a nation, right? What's happening globally is that there's some amazing things that happen in the midst of a great deal of turmoil and strife and bad. And there's some amazing opportunities that are emerging, but you have to be ready for it, right? Meaning, I have to be ready for there to be a change. Yes, that whole, cliche, and it's true, be the change that you want to see. Yeah, absolutely. There are things that as they unfold, wisdom dictates to me to kind of check Dumisani. Okay, so what do I need to be doing now? How do I need to? Quick example, I was telling my daughter, because my daughter's real fitness people and everything, and I work out and everything, I do and stuff, but I need to lose weight. I need to lose at least 20 pounds, probably a little bit more than that. And my daughter and I were talking, so okay, I need to get my diet thing together. I'll work out. I have a monster workout that I do, but I like to eat stuff. man, I eat, and I eat healthy foods, but then I eat other stuff after that. I reward David. I always say I reward myself by my brownie and my ice cream. You know what? That was some good, them vegetables and I had that lamb. Man, I was hitting that right there. You know what I need right now? I need some brownie and some ice cream. And so I have to cut back on that. Brother like his biscuits, brother like his pancake. Okay, I got to do that in more moderation because I need to lose weight. Why? Because I know not just my health, my strength, right? And I mean, I'm relatively healthy, right? I do work out, but I need to go those other steps here to be even healthier because of what's in front of me. I know that things are shifting to another gear, and what I have now, I'm not talking about your weight. I'm not talking about your health, your health and your physical. What I'm saying is that I have to then recognize that I have to prepare for what's coming. I can feel it coming. I can feel it. Not in a bad way, not a foreboding. It'll be challenging, right? But I know that among the other things I need to do, many, many things I need to do, one of those is drop about 20 plus pounds. And so over the next couple of months, that's my goal for that to happen, to prepare. So my question for you is, what are you doing to prepare? It's not enough to know that a change is coming, right? You know, that the song says back, and I know change gonna come, right? But it's more important, or just as important, to prepare for what's coming, right? All right, so now that's done here. I want to thank everyone for coming. We just kind of did this in a general thing. The Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel, our forum on Israel, Africa, and Black America. I know I spent probably most of our time talking about the IBSI ambassadors just because they're so amazing. So I want you guys to please go to ibsi.org, ibsi.org. You can find out all about our organization there. You can also become a legacy builder. Again, we're only able to do this Africa Israel journey and all of these different things, and we're so excited about it, but we can only do it with your help, right? So we want you to please go to ibsi.org. You can click on donate, or if you, those of you who are watching this being streamed now, you'll see on your screen what's called Become a Legacy Builder. They got that QR code thing there, all that technology stuff. A legacy builder is a person who gives monthly to IBSI. For starting with $10 a month, you can give $10 a month, $20, a 50, 100, 1,000, whatever fits your budget. You can give as an organization, you can give as a church, you can give as a synagogue, you can give as a company. You can do all that. You can set that up there. If you have any questions, just go ahead and click on that info thing, and our staff will be more than happy to help you. But we want you to consider becoming a legacy builder to help us. Our goal is, and we're so blessed. First of all, again, thank you to all our donors, all of our coalition partners, right? The people give as they're able to give, and we don't take it lightly at all. Thank you so much. And we're also so glad it comes from the Jewish community, comes to the Black American community. We're so grateful for all of the help, and we need it. We need it all, even more so now. We're taking 2 trips this time, right? We're taking the IBSI ambassadors, 20 IBSI ambassadors and 20 IBSI pastors, but we can only do it with your help. We really, really need your help. So ibsi.org. You can donate just one time, or you can become a legacy builder, right? Click on that legacy builder. You'll see that QR code. And for whatever amount a month that you are able to give, we so appreciate it, right? So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We are here each Monday. We are back on Clubhouse and back on all this streaming. It was streamed today. You'll see it on IBSI's Facebook page, IBSI's YouTube page. I'm on my IG page, Instagram Live. We weren't on IBSI's Twitter page, but we hopefully will be next week. We got to do a couple of little technical things. So we are on Twitter. I'm sorry, my bad. We're not on my personal Twitter page. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All of those are IBSI. I'm on my Instagram Live. Shout out to all of you out there on Instagram. Shouldn't have done your wave. I'm waving back. So glad to have you. Of course, we are on Clubhouse. So please, those of you on Clubhouse and all the other platforms, you can share it. Again, we'll be back here. I think it'll be me as well. But there'll be different ones of us. Me and Joshua. It might be Joshua and Olga. It might be me and Olga. We might have some special guests that are here. So there's always going to be a great time. So we're looking forward to joining you. Please mark your calendar every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're here to unpack different things, current events, cultural events, talking about music, talking about religion, talking about the Black and Jewish communities, Israel, Africa, and all of those things. Again, if you want to join us in Israel for the Africa Leadership Summit, go to Africa leadershipsummit.org, right? And you will be there in late July, early August. You can find out there, africaleadershipsummit.org. And if you want to go on the ministry Holy Land tour with Dumisani Washington Ministries, go to dumisaniwashington.com. Dumisani Washington, Dumisani, spells just like it's spelled, Dumisani, dumisaniwashington.com. You'll see our Holy Land tour there for mid to late December, all right? Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you for being with us. We're looking forward to being with you on next Monday. You guys have a great rest of your evening, everyone.